Hey, Button family. I want to share a few thoughts with you since Ron and I will be in Colorado at my grandson's graduation at this time. So we are very sorry that we can't be there for Bob's celebration of life. Bobby, as I fondly think of him, Bobby and I were babies together. He was born in December, and I was born in February. When he was a baby, your parents didn't have a car, and my dad would often drive to Rochester to bring your parents and Marilyn and Bobby to Albion so they could visit family. At that time, we lived in a double house on Caroline Street, and your mom's sister Frances lived in the other half. And I know I have some pictures that I sent to you of Bobby and me as babies in the backyard. As we grew older, I have memories of playing with him a lot at Grandma Button's house. One of the things is we would pretend her stairs were a pirate ship, and I remember running up and down those stairs with him, and I'm not sure if we were the pirates or we were running away from the pirates, but we had a lot of fun. We also used to play cowboys. I remember him in his cowboy boots and his cowboy hat, and I had cowgirl boots and a cat pistol. I also remember staying overnight at your house on Woodside Street and Bobby being in his little cowboy pajamas. So back to Albion, Grandma Button had one of those old Victrolas, with the crank, and we used to play records on there, the old-time records, and laugh at some of the old singers. She also had an old piano in her living room, and we used to bang away at that. And I know Bob had some innate musical ability, but truthfully, I don't remember as a kid if he ever played anything. I remember my mother could play chopsticks. I don't know what else. Also, there was a large radio there, as radios were big in those days. And I remember one time there was a problem with the radio, and your dad and my dad were trying to fix it, and they had taken it apart, probably to replace some what do they call them? Tubes. So I remember Bobby standing there watching them very intently and watching, and finally he asked, "Where's the little man?" And our dads had to explain to him that there's not a little man that lived on the radio and how the voice came over the radio. Another fond memory I have of Bobby and me and Marilyn, too, that I've probably shared with you many times, was Christmas Eve. Your parents would come to Albion for Christmas, and we must have celebrated Christmas at that time on Christmas Eve at our house on Caroline Street. And early on Christmas Eve, the dads, my dad and Frank, would take Bobby, Marilyn, and I out for a car ride all through the streets of Albion, looking up at the sky, like, where is Santa Claus? Can you find Santa Claus? Let's try to find Santa Claus. And of course, we never found him. But when we got home, our moms would be at the front door and they would say, "You just missed him." And then there in the living room, under the Christmas tree, were the presents that Santa delivered. Last Christmas Eve, just this past Christmas Eve, when I was out doing some errands, and I thought about this, as I kind of do a lot on Christmas Eve, and I thought about Bob, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to call him and say Merry Christmas. So I did, and I remember telling him that I was just thinking about Christmas Eve, and as soon as I said, "I remember," and he said, "I know just what you're going to say." So we had some fun reminiscing about that. I also had the privilege, thanks to somebody giving me Cheryl's telephone number, of talking to Bobby soon after he was taken to the hospital. And we talked for a minute or two, but he was tired, and the medical staff were coming and going. So I told him I'd call him back in a few days. Sadly, that never happened. We weren't in touch too much as we grew older. He was in my wedding, and I remember his being proud of and happy with the job that he had at Kodak. And he was also very happy having met and married Claudia. Ron and I visited him and Claudia a couple times at their house in Rochester before they took off for Florida. It was good seeing them both at Marilyn's home a couple years ago. And a couple years before that, I think he and Claudia were in town, and we got together in Albion and took a memory ride through all the the old haunts of Albion, down to the quarry where the tramps lived, etc. And it was just fun being together with them again. We spent a lot of time together as little kids. Um, so I wish I could be there with you all today. Your family was always very close. Our families, my mom and dad, liked Frankie and Dorothy, as they called them, and just as kids being together. I'm glad that we've all remained close since our parents have all passed. So thank you so much for inviting us again. I'm so sorry we can't be there. God bless all of you, and God bless Bob. Bye bye.